under your watch, a genocide will take place, and you will look the other way because American interests were being upheld is a fair question, because the American people want to know that anytime we engage a country, that we think about what our actions could be and how we believe our values are being furthered. That is my question. Will you make sure that human rights are not violated and that we uphold international and human rights?
I suppose there is a question in there, and the answer is that the entire thrust of American policy in Venezuela is to support the Venezuelan people's effort to restore democracy to their country. That's our policy.
What you're about to watch is not just a congressional hearing. It's a complete political meltdown. One side came prepared to discuss policy. The other came ready to attack, interrupt, and force headlines. This exchange between Ilhan Omar and Elliott Abrams has people furious on both sides. And by the end of this video, you'll clearly understand why many are calling this a disgrace to Congress. If you care about truth, accountability, and real leadership, stay with me. And don't forget to subscribe, and comment your thoughts. So let me break down exactly what happened here, because there's a lot of noise and people deserve clarity.
Ms. Omar.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you all for being here, and thank you for your testimonies. Mr. Adams, in 1991, you pleaded guilty to 2 counts of withholding information from Congress regarding your involvement in the Iran-Contra affair, for which you were later pardoned by President George H.W. Bush. I fail to understand why members of this committee or the American people should find any testimony that you give today to be truthful.
If I can respond to that.
It wasn't a question.
On February,
that was not a question. That was I reserve the right to my time.
It is not right.
That was not a question.
Committee can attack
on February 8th,
who is not permitted to reply.
That was not a question. Thank you for your participation. On February 8th, 1982, you testified before the Senate Foreign Relations Committee about U.S. policy in El Salvador. In that hearing, you dismissed as communist propaganda report about the massacre of El Mozote, in which more than 800 civilians, including children as young as 2 years old, were brutally murdered by U.S.-trained troops. During that massacre, some of those troops bragged about raping a 12-year-old girl before they killed them. Girls before they killed them. You later said that the U.S. policy in El Salvador was a fabulous achievement. Yes or no, do you still think so?
From the day that President Duarte was elected in a free election to this day, El Salvador has been a democracy. That's a fabulous achievement.
Yes or no, do you think that massacre was a fabulous achievement that happened under our watch?
That is a ridiculous question, and I
yes or no?
No.
I will take that as a yes.
I am not going to respond to that kind of personal attack, which is not a question.
Yes or no, would you support an armed faction within Venezuela that engages in war crimes, crimes against humanity or genocide, if you believe they were serving U.S. interest, as you did in Guatemala, El Salvador, and Nicaragua?
I am not going to respond to that question. I'm sorry. I don't think this entire line of questioning is meant to be real questions, and so I will not reply.
Whether under your watch, a genocide will take place, and you will look the other way because American interests were being upheld, is a fair question, because the American people want to know that anytime we engage a country, that we think about what our actions could be and how we believe our values are being furthered. That is my question. Will you make sure that human rights are not violated and that we uphold international and human rights?
I suppose there is a question in there, and the answer is that the entire thrust of American policy in Venezuela is to support the Venezuelan people's effort to restore democracy to their country. That's our policy.
I don't think anybody disputes that. The question I had for you is that does the interest of the United States include protecting human rights and include protecting people against genocide?
This hearing was supposed to focus on U.S. foreign policy, especially Venezuela. Elliott Abrams, a longtime diplomat who served under multiple presidents, was invited to testify. Instead of starting with current policy, Ilhan Omar immediately went into his past. She brought up his guilty plea from the Iran-Contra affair in the early 1990s, even though he was later pardoned. Now, instead of asking how that experience shaped his views today, she used it to suggest he couldn't be trusted at all. That's important, because from that moment on, the hearing stopped being about policy and turned into a character attack. Every time Abrams tried to respond or explain context, he was cut off. He was told, "That's not a question," or "I reserve my time." So let's be honest. If someone isn't allowed to finish an answer, this isn't questioning, it's prosecuting. Things got even more intense when Omar brought up U.S. involvement in El Salvador. She referenced a brutal massacre carried out by U.S. trained forces decades ago, and then forced Abrams into a corner by demanding he answer with only yes or no. But here's the problem. History doesn't work in yes or no sound bites. Abrams explained that when he once called U.S. policy a fabulous achievement, he was referring to El Salvador becoming and remaining a democracy, not the human rights abuses. That distinction matters. But Omar ignored it and kept pressing him to say something that could be clipped and weaponized. At that point, the question stopped sounding like oversight and started sounding like traps. She then went even further, asking whether Abrams would support armed groups committing war crimes if it served U.S. interests. Abrams refused to play along, saying the questions weren't serious or fair. And honestly, many people watching agreed. Because the goal didn't seem to be answers, it seemed to be humiliation. Eventually, Abrams clearly stated the current U.S. position, supporting democracy in Venezuela while upholding human rights. Omar accepted that and yielded her time, but the damage had already been done. What we witnessed wasn't a conversation. It was a performance. This kind of behavior turns Congress into a stage, not a workplace. Serious issues like foreign policy, human rights, and national security deserve serious dialogue, not interruptions and gotcha moments designed for social media. If you're getting value from this breakdown, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and let me know in the comments what you think. At the end of the day, this hearing showed everything people are frustrated with in modern politics. Instead of facts, we got theatrics. Instead of solutions, we got sound bites. You don't have to agree with Elliott Abrams to see that this exchange crossed a line. And you don't have to support Ilhan Omar to want real accountability done the right way. The American people deserve leadership, not viral moments. Like the video. Subscribe for more honest breakdowns. And drop your opinion in the comments. I read them all.